Welcome to The Voice America. Today we'll be discussing about Trump's attack on democracy, election officials' fear for the longer term of Yank elections. But before we continue, do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to always get updated on our latest video. Let's begin. When the election office led by Lisa Deeley first came under fire from then-President Donald Trump last year, it had been quite a month before polling day. Deeley, the chair of Philadelphia's three-member committee and a Democrat, watched from home as Trump falsely claimed during the primary 2020 presidential debate that poll watchers had already been turned away at early voting centers in Philadelphia. Bad things happened in Philadelphia, Trump said. Deeley's telephone immediately lit up with calls and text messages. A lot of my family, my friends, got a touch chuckle out of it, but I knew it wasn't in the least something to laugh about, she told CNN. It was just the start. Trump's efforts to subvert the election began well before polling day and have only gained momentum since, with Republicans passing laws to limit voting or make it easier for partisans to interfere in additional than a dozen states, including key battlegrounds. Last in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott signed an election bill into law last week over the fierce objection of the state's Democrats, who, in hopes of derailing similar restrictions proposed earlier this summer, had fled the state twice en masse. The state legislative efforts are bolstered by a coordinated, behind-the-scenes push by conservative groups to boost millions to support restrictive voting laws, spread unproven claims about voter fraud and fund sham audits of election results. All of which, election experts say, will make it easier subsequent time to overturn close results and puts the longer term of free and fair elections in jeopardy. I don't think we've ever been at some extent that's been quite this tenuous for the democracy, Christine Todd Whitman, a former GOP governor of latest Jersey and a founder and co-chair of States United Democracy Center, told CNN. I think it is a huge danger because it is the first time that I've seen it being undermined, our democracy being undermined from within, and spoke to a few dozen state and county officials involved in elections for this story. All of them expressed concern that the widespread and unsubstantiated claims of a stolen election could take an enduring toll on American democracy. For weeks after the election, Trump tried to sabotage the desire of Yank voters in his relentless attempts to overturn the results. He and his allies browbeat local officials in multiple states and tried vainly to coerce the Department of Justice to open a bogus investigation. They dispatched attorneys to file nearly 60 lawsuits across the country. About one minor case were dropped or dismissed, some by Trump-appointed judges. But while those efforts were stymied by a skinny line of civil servants, a concerted push in myriad states to line the stage for a future power grab is finding more success. It's all designed to form it easier to boost the doubt and uncertainty to permit an in-depth election to be overturned, said Ben Berwick, an attorney at Protect Democracy, a nonpartisan organization that works to stay elections and election administration from being politicized. 2020 was a preview of what's likely to be darker times to return. If we continue down this path far away from democracy, we'll even be talking about big lie fuels threats against election workers. Polls show most Republican voters still believe Trump's lie that he won the election. In July, a poll from the Associated Press and therefore the NORC Center for Public Affairs Research found that 2/3 of Republicans still believe Biden wasn't legitimately elected. That big lie, including punishing new laws and threats against poll workers, has prompted fatigue within the field and a possible exodus of knowledgeable people to run smooth elections within the future. Experts and poll workers say what it's getting to cause, and we have seen this happening across the country, is local officials are getting to leave, said Matthew Masterson, a former senior cybersecurity advisor with the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, primarily liable for elections. That opens the door to adding more political actors, less professional, more political actors into the election space, which, again, is incredibly dangerous. Nearly 1 in 3 election officials say they feel unsafe due to their jobs, and about 1 in 5 listed threats to their lives as a job-related concern, consistent with a spring survey commissioned by the Brennan Center for Justice at Nye University's School of Law. Among them is Claire Woodall-Vaugh, the chief director of the Milwaukee Committee. In early August, 9 months after the election, she received voicemails calling for her hanging. Those and other threats followed two right-wing websites publishing an email exchange during which she skilled a joke by an election consultant on November 4 about how the votes had been submitted at 3 a.m. The sites suggested Woodall Vogue delivered Joe Biden a questionable win in her district. Are we getting to hold people that are publishing conspiracy theories accountable when someone does get killed? Woodall Vogue said in an interview with CNN.in Philadelphia. Deely was confronted outside the convention center a couple of days after the election by a person taking a cell phone video of her walking down the road. It had been James Fitzpatrick, Trump's Pennsylvania director of polling day operations, who lobbed allegations of corruption at her as she covered her face. It got many views, Deely, an official told CNN. And awful comments about my physical shape. People called me all types of names, people saying I should be hung for treason, that we should determine where she lives and kill her, we should bludgeon her. I mean, unbelievable. The city was also flooded with threatening phone calls people just wanted to believe. Deely said they want to believe something that's not true. And there is not one shred of evidence to prove that it's true, but they only want to believe it. It isn't just election officials who have faced threats. In Arizona, which in last year's presidential vote flipped from red to blue, a wave of animus decreased on the majority Republican Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, which oversees elections for about 60% of the state's voters. On a day-to-day we're told that we'd like to travel in, attend jail either on social media, phone calls to the office, emails, and therefore the threats do continue, said Gates, a Republican member of the board, adding that last month, my colleagues and that I all were treated to an orange jumpsuit that a gentleman sent to us and, declared that we'll find yourself in jail someday because we are traitors within the minds of those people. Please do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to always get updated on our latest video.